Tommy Ellis, National Installation Training Manager for Fibo North America. In this installment, we're going to be talking about our 48-inch panels today, and we're going to show you how to get the maximum yield out of the panels in a typical 3x5 shower. Why do I want to use a 48-inch panel? A couple of reasons for that. Typically, we're going to find that on a multi-unit project where speed is the main concern, these panels install in about half the amount of time as our standard 24-inch panels. So you can really get rolling and do multiple units in the same day. The other reason might be to minimize the amount of waste that you have. With some of our tile designs, depending on the size of your shower, there may be a little bit more waste because we're doing things symmetrically, whatever. But today we're going to talk about how to get the maximum yield out of a shower alcove using our 48-inch by 94.5-inch panel. If you're new to Fibo, please make sure you go back and you watch our hour-long basic installation training video. This video is going to assume that you have all of the basic skills and terminology down, and we're going to go through this pretty quick. And these panels, just like any of our other panels, they can install over OSB strips, they can install over drywall, existing materials, etc. Today, as you can see, we're using OSB strips. Another thing is that I've got a window in this particular shower. It doesn't matter if you have a window in your shower or not. However, because I have a window in this shower, I'm going to cut the panels with the opening for the window in place so that we can do another video later about how to install Fibo in a window condition. The setup of your alcove is going to be the same. We're going to go ahead and cut and dry fit our base profiles, and we're going to cut and dry fit our inside corner profiles. With these particular panels, you also need to determine a direction of install, either right to left or left to right. The reason this is important is because the first panel that we cut, we are going to leave enough material as offcut to be able to install it as a click joint on the back wall. Now, my click joint in this particular installation is going to be offset to one side or the other, depending on which direction I'm going in. Now, you'll notice that I don't have a hidden corner profile in this particular corner. I've already cut and dry fit everything. So the first panel that I set in place, I'm actually going to attach the hidden corner profile to the back of the panel, and we'll talk about why we do it that way as we get a little bit further in. But it's already been cut, dry fit, everything else is good. So now we're ready to actually just go ahead and start cutting panels, and away we go. So this is our 48-inch panel. The panel size is 48 inches wide by 94.5 inches tall. Exact same size click joint, and everything is the same. But I do want to show you a few dimensions to keep in mind as you're laying out your unit and making sure that you take into account how big everything is. So the overall panel width is, we call it 48, but it's actually 47 and 15/16, as you can see there. The click joint is still the same. It's going to be roughly 3/4 of an inch on each side. Or if you're using metric, it's going to be 2 centimeters. Same thing on the tongue side as it is on the groove side. One thing I do want you to know as well is that laminate to laminate, it's 47 and 3/16 or 120 centimeters. Another thing I want to show you is if you're going to use a solid panel, what the maximum size you can get out of one of these by cutting both ends of the click. And that is going to get you to 46 and 3/8. That's the maximum depth you'll be able to go off of a back wall, or a side wall rather, to cover a return. Otherwise you'll have to leave the click intact and click panels to go deeper than that. For my first cut, I'm going to cut that 3/4 of an inch off of the groove side to give me my flat edge to go in the corner. Remember, because I want to save the offcut from this first piece, I need to make sure I keep the tongue side intact. From there, I'll measure and cut my finished panel size, and then I'll discard the offcut and save that for later, because remember, I'm going to use that on the back wall. Okay, I'm just holding this up for representation because I've already put the hidden corner profile on my first panel. But anyway, I wanted to show you this. So you're going to measure from the pin of the hidden corner profile all the way to the end of your run. This particular shower, because my drain is on the right-hand side as I'm facing the shower, I'm going to do a right to left install instead of a left to right install. It doesn't really matter. It's not 100% important, but we're going to put the click on the opposite side of where the shower head is. No particular reason, but I found that it tends to look better that way because most people's attention when they're in the shower is always focused on the shower head side. And if you're using a design where the seam doesn't 100% disappear, then their eye won't be drawn to that as much as if it were close to the front of the shower. Here's the first panel. It's already been cut and dry fit. As you can see, I've already attached the hidden corner profile to the back of the panel using the double-sided sticky tape. As many of you are probably aware, once the panel touches this tape, it is really hard to get it off. And that's why I wanted to put this one on first, because this panel is so big, if you try and rock it backwards and slide it, and then you start standing it up and you're not all the way over to the pin, this thing could stick to the tape and it might not be in the right position. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave the profile on, set the panel up against the wall, and then I'll screw it in through the channel like I normally do. Another thing I want to touch on real quick, in the basic training video, when we talk about installing the base profile, we usually start on whatever wall we're starting with. We'll put one screw in and then we'll add additional screws through the panels as we click them together. Obviously with a single panel, we're not going to have a place to do that. So what I did in this particular installation is I put all of my screws in all the way around. Of course, I applied the Fibo seal to the back of it, and for my panels I'm going to definitely seal the bottom and the side that goes into the corner, into the hidden corner profile. All of that stuff's the same. It's just a matter of working with a bigger panel. Another thing that we're going to do, because these panels are so wide, for a screw-in installation going over OSB strips, I'm actually going to apply horizontal beads of Fibo seal as glue to my strips to give it a little stronger adhesion, and you don't get a lot of that sponginess that can happen with other panel products. So I've got the glue up and this panel's ready to put in place. One thing I want to show you is what we're still going to do, even though I pre-attached the hidden corner profile, I'm going to run my vertical bead right next to where the profile is going to set, because again, that's going to be my permanent adhesive for the panel once the glue dries. Remember, the tape on the hidden corner profile is just to hold the panel in place while the glue dries. So now we'll go ahead and put this first panel up. First panel's up, and as you can see, when I installed the panel, I pushed it into the glue real firm. I've got my screws on the end of the panel on the return side, put a couple of screws in the ceiling, and then I also screwed in the hidden corner profile through the channel, just like I would have done if I was using 24-inch panels and just leaving this on the wall and clicking a panel in place. Now it's time to do the back wall. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the tongue side for the corner, and then that panel is going to run to wherever it's going to run. Remember, on the first wall, when you cut this panel, you need to be very precise. You need to leave as much offcut as possible to make sure you have enough to finish the end of this particular shower. These 48-inch panels are very big and they're a little heavy. They weigh about 50 pounds. I was able to dry fit these by myself yesterday, but when you're doing the installation, if you're using the 48-inch panels, it's a good idea to have two guys for maneuverability, for getting them in and out of the house, for cutting them, for putting them on the table, and particularly if you're going to be clicking multiple panels together on a longer run wall. It's going to be a lot easier and a lot safer if you have two people handling a full-size 48-inch panel. So we're going to go ahead and make our cuts on the first panel for the back wall. I'm going to cut off my tongue side, cut out my opening for my window, get everything all prepped, set the panel in place, and then we'll talk about the last panel on the back wall. One of the things I want to talk about while you watch me cut these panels is the maximum size opening. You can use 3 48-inch panels and be able to have enough left for the back wall. A 36 by 60 shower is going to be the largest size that you will be able to install 3 48-inch panels to complete the installation. The reason for this is after you add your substrate to the rough opening, you're going to lose 1 inch in width on the back wall and a ½ inch on both the left and right return walls. By orienting the installation in a left to right or right to left manner, the way the hidden corner profile set is also going to gain us an extra ½ inch on one of the return walls. And that is most important when you're cutting your first panel and leaving the offcut to install the back wall later. 2 people to install the full width panel is definitely key. And you're also going to want to make sure, as with any starting panel, that your panel is perfectly plumb, because you are going to click another piece into this panel. First panel on the back wall is done. One thing I want to do, I want to make sure of, my walls should be straight because we set up our OSB strips properly, right? That's not always the case. Sometimes these things in between studs, they might have a little bit of a give to them or whatever. So the last thing I want to make sure, up and down, top to bottom, there's no air. I can't see any light between my straight edge and the panel. If that's the case, then I'm going to have a really hard time clicking this small piece that goes into the corner here. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this one and cut this piece out of the first piece I cut off of my starting wall. Again, it's very important to make sure that you know how much size you're going to have here when you're cutting this panel, to make sure you leave yourself enough so that you can cut it again. Another thing I want to talk about is could be potentially some outages in your walls. Even though we've plumbed everything in the whole bit, we could still be out a little bit. If you are going to cut outages into the panels, cut them into the corners. So if this had a dive here, I would have cut that into the corner. Same thing over here. When I'm taking my clean cut, I would have done the same thing on this panel. Likewise over here, and same thing on that end. Another thing you probably noticed when the two of us were carrying this 48-inch panel into the shower, we used 2 Fibo grips. Once the panel's got sealant on it and everything, carrying it by hand, you can do it, but it gets pretty messy. So 2 Fibo grips. Some of our panels, however, the Fibo grip will not stick to, like a Shabby Chic, for example. It's got a heavier texture to it. So not a bad idea to have these piston type suction cups on the truck just in case. Some guys like to even use the battery operated one, but I've found that if I've got a panel that the Fibo grip won't grab, these typically do a pretty good job. And now my last panel on the back wall is done. As you can see, I was just cleaning up the remainder of the haze from the Fibo wipes after I cleaned up the sealant in my click joint. Nice thing about this cracked cement panel is you really can't tell where the panel starts and where the other one ends. Real nice design for doing this type of an installation. And the last panel's done. One of the things you might have noticed is I've got pieces of blue tape on my panels here. Reason I did that is because I wanted to mark the top. On the 2 return panels, even though we're cutting off both ends of the click, the panel could theoretically go either way, flip it upside down and hang it. With a pattern design, it's a good idea to keep the orientation of the panels the same. So that's why I wanted to make sure that I kept all of my tops at the top, right? So when we go from this panel to this panel, it's more of a natural continuation of the pattern as opposed to flipping it upside down, where this corner may have a little bit more of a stark contrast than necessary. Now, of course, this doesn't apply to a solid color panel, but something to keep in mind. And now this unit's ready to finish. We're going to seal in the corner, we're going to seal at the bottom, we're going to seal where the profile sets on the deck, We're going to install our L profiles just like we did with every other unit, but you guys have seen that in the first video and you already know how to do that, so we're not going to go over that again. So that concludes this video. So 48-inch panels, very easy to install, helpful to have two guys. You should be able to install a 3x5 alcove using three 48-inch panels in an hour and a half to 2 hours. So you're basically going to cut your installation time in half. That's the advantage of this panel. It's the speed of installation. If you have any other questions about this particular installation or anything Fibo installation related, please reach out to me. I'm going to leave my contact information at the end of this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Good luck with your Fibo journey. Talk to you soon.